This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Coming up at 5 a.m., a judge rules Oregon must offer the COVID vaccine to inmates immediately. What this would mean for the hundreds of thousands of seniors waiting their turn in line. Plus, we've been talking about all the trash in Portland, so we asked the mayor what he plans to do to clean up the city. And then later, a new study out of Oregon State University looks at the relationship between children and their dogs.
Dogs are attending to what children are doing, even sometimes at a very young age.
Oh, they love each other. Researchers say their findings could bring a little extra harmony into your home. They will tell us how. That's coming up in about 15 minutes. It really is a great story. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for waking up with us on this Wednesday. I'm Brenda Braxton. Hey, Rod, it's just you and me today. How about starting off with the forecast?
You and me. Okay, this is kind of fun, and this is just what we need. Haven't had a lot of it lately. Snow up on the mountain. Right now, it's light snow, but it was coming down pretty good. It's 22 degrees up on the mountain. You see one of the plows there in the parking lot. They report 6 inches of fresh snow and still coming down. That's all snow over the Cascades, and it's snowing actually a little bit below 1,500 feet this morning. So there are snow reports coming in from the Coast Range highways as well. For the Rose City, it's just rain right now, and we do have some dry spots back toward McMinnville. So this is early morning rain breaking into showers and then mainly a dry afternoon. 40 right now, 45 at noon, partly cloudy, and 48 at 5 p.m. Brenda?
Yeah, ending strong. I like it. Thank you, Rod. We begin this morning with a major ruling affecting Oregon's COVID vaccinations. A judge has now decided all inmates in state custody must be offered a vaccine now. Dan Haggerty has been covering this issue closely on the story at 6 o'clock. He looked further into what this ruling means.
The judge's ruling essentially says inmates should have already been offered the vaccine, and it puts them now in the same group as long-term care facilities like nursing homes, places where people are basically living very close together. So this actually moves adults in custody, prisoners, ahead of senior citizens who are supposed to start getting the vaccine next week. Juan Chavez is with the Oregon Justice Resource Center, who filed the lawsuit, and I asked him if prisoners are now essentially jumping the line.
It's not necessarily jumping a line necessarily. They're in the same line now. Whereas before, they were going to be told to get behind 900,000 people. As Americans, we have an obligation to the people that we have in our custody. That's something we decided at the very founding of this country in 1781 under our Constitution. We can't be cruelly and unusually punishing people that we've sentenced because of a crime that might have been committed. So nobody has been sentenced to get the kind of lung scarring or heart scarring that you get from COVID-19. Nobody's been sentenced to have the horrible side effects that linger on for months from COVID-19, and nobody's been sentenced to die from COVID-19.
Now, before you get too upset, I know some people are going to be upset about this move. I want you to consider the numbers. There are about 105,000 educators in Oregon. There are more than 700,000 people who are over the age of 65. There are 12,000 inmates. And the state's essentially been vaccinating more people than that every single day. So theoretically, they could take care of this on a Wednesday. Emphasis on the word theoretically. As far as when this will start, we don't know. The state could choose to appeal.
Well, we've been trying to find out if Oregon is holding back vaccine doses for people to get their second shot. Dr. Anthony Fauci says states should not be doing that, but the Oregon Health Authority has a different piece of advice. Last month, it recommended vaccine providers reserve half of their doses.
Under our approach, we expect all our vaccinators are reserving second doses for people who've received their prime shot. Keep that in mind when you hear people claim there are thousands of doses sitting on shelves in Oregon. Remember, we could provide more doses. We could provide doses to more people in these populations. We allocated all of our 100,000 total doses each week in that way. But we don't think that's responsible until we get further direction from CDC and the manufacturers to spend doses in that way.
However, a spokesperson for the mass vaccination site at the Oregon Convention Center told us they're not holding back any doses. As we pushed the health authority for clarification, we did get a new statement contradicting their recommendations from last month. It says, quote, No doses are being held back. If this is about second doses, we are allocating enough second doses to cover all the first doses given out to vaccine providers currently. Well, this is far from over, so stay tuned. We'll continue to push for answers. With all the talk about vaccines, we really haven't focused much lately on COVID testing. But there's some good news there. Oregon is administering more than 100,000 tests a week, and that's been the pace since mid-November. The positive test rate is also going down. This graph shows exactly what's happening. Statewide, it's gone from 8.6% in late November to under 5% based on the latest reporting. And county health officials say they're optimistic.
The overall trend, I think, at this point is clear, and that's really thanks to everybody doing their part around the usual precautions, masking, distancing, limiting social interactions. Oregonians and those of us in the metro area have really hung on with our protective behaviors, and you can see the payoff in the numbers.
Health officials still worry about the new variants of the virus that are more contagious. Here are three more things to know about COVID this morning. Number one, if you get the vaccine in Oregon, your insurance is now required to cover it. This includes the vaccine, supplies, and paying staff. Public health officials say there should be no barrier, financial or otherwise, to protecting Oregonians from COVID. Contact your insurance provider if you have any questions. Number two, here's a question you keep asking. Do you need to get vaccinated if you previously tested positive for COVID? The answer is yes. The CDC recommends everyone get the vaccine, but there are a few exceptions. If you've had a recent infection and received certain treatments, then you may want to wait. They suggest waiting 90 days, but say you should check with your doctor first, just to be sure. And number three, just 1 year out from the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, people there worry the games aren't going to happen. They're scheduled to start February 4th of next year, but health experts say the pandemic probably won't be under control by then. China has kept case numbers low among its citizens, but with so many tourists expected for the games, it's unclear how they'll manage them. And those are three things to know about COVID right now. We also have an update this morning on all the trash and graffiti here in Portland. Mayor Ted Wheeler says he's going to tackle it, but he can't say when. We asked you to help out with this story last week, and you sent us hundreds and hundreds of photos and videos and tips about the parts of town that frustrate you the most. City officials told us crews are cleaning up more trash than ever, but they can't keep up, and they're pretty much out of money to continue anything more. So our Maggie Vespa took that problem to the mayor.
Good morning. The mayor says he'll call on his colleagues to help him tackle trash and graffiti in Portland, but he wouldn't give details. You'll hear why in a minute. Last week, city officials told us crews are actually cleaning up more trash and graffiti than ever, but they can't keep up, and they're pretty much out of funding. Tuesday, Mayor Ted Wheeler said he'll call on fellow city commissioners to increase funding for cleanup programs in the next fiscal budget, but that money wouldn't kick in until this summer. In the meantime, the mayor says he'll look to move funding around to ramp up these programs as soon as possible, so I asked for specifics.
So how soon might that? Because that's kind of what I'm getting at. What can be done in the meantime?
You know I don't give specific timelines, and you know why.
No, I don't. Why not? For people who want to know when.
I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I want to make sure that we have a thoughtful program, and we will be completely transparent with the public about both the plans and the resources as they're developed. But I'm not going to sit here and guess.
By spring, I mean, even just a generic going into spring or that kind of thing.
We're going to do immediately what we can do immediately.
I also reached out to every sitting city commissioner. The first to get back was newly elected Commissioner Mingus Mapps. He said he would support doubling or even tripling the city's deals with groups like Clean Start PDX, who cleans up trash around homeless camps. Commissioner Mapps also said he would support the city forming formal partnerships with volunteer groups who pick up litter. Whether that's part of the mayor's plan remains to be seen. We'll stay on it. I'm Maggie Vespa reporting, KGW News.
The riot at the Capitol and the aftermath could be having an effect on Oregon's Republican Party. More than 6,000 people switched their registrations in January. Of course, the numbers alone don't show why people left, but now we know why one prominent Republican did. Newt Bueller is best known for his run for governor in 2018. He lost to Kate Brown. Bueller told the New York Times he changed his registration the very same night Republican officials passed a resolution calling the violent attack at the U.S. Capitol a false flag. We spoke with him yesterday about that decision.
Look, I don't know what the Republican Party stands for anymore. That's one of the problems. It's become almost a cult of personality. Is it possible to recorrect? Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of potential for the Republican Party, both nationally and in Oregon, if they get it right.
You can catch the rest of Newt Bueller's interview on KGW's YouTube page. Okay, it's 5:11. Want to show you this snowy picture up at Timberline Lodge. Boy, our camera's getting a little, iced over there. It's kind of fun to see the flurries, right? If you were with us yesterday morning here on Sunrise, you know we were talking a lot about the one, the only, Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog seeing his shadow and predicting 6 more weeks of winter. All right, Rod, I'm going to bring you in because Phil's counterpart here in Portland agrees.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about Filbert the beaver at the Oregon Zoo. And I think we have some pictures of Filbert. Yep, there he is. So Filbert is actually predicting the same up at the zoo, saying, yep, I saw my shadow. I'm going to go take some cover. There's going to be 6 more weeks of winter. Now, interestingly enough, on Groundhog Day here locally a year ago, in my weather book, I noted that there were shadows around. And in fact, last spring took a while to get going. March was a couple degrees colder than normal. We didn't really start to see any warming until April. This year, let's turn to the National Weather Service. Their outlook February, March, April puts us in the colder than normal department in blue temperature-wise, and in green, the above normal precipitation department. And in fact, forecast models go crazy in April, saying it could be really wet and nowhere near normal temperatures. So maybe it's going to be a while before spring gets going. All right, here's our weather maker from last night. This big batch of clouds. There's a low here that's falling apart. It will push inland. So basically we're getting on the back end of what was pretty good fetch of rain last night and snow up in the mountains. So FYI, here's the Sunset Highway up in the Coast Range, 32 degrees, partial snow cover on that roadway. You get up near 1,000 feet in the Coast Range and you will have some early morning icy conditions. Here's Government Camp, 29 degrees, all snow covered on Highway 26. Santiam and Willamette passes look just horrible right now. Snow level is below 1,500 feet currently. So again, we have snow showers out east. We're getting on the back end of what was a rainy night here in the Rose City. Currently rain coming down. Will be, I think, dry by lunchtime. 40 in Portland, 40 up in Kelso, 35 out in Baker City. 48 for a high. Again, a wet start, a dry finish. And then the next batch of rain is basically Thursday evening into Friday morning again. Our weekend right now, the weekend. It still looks pretty nice. Okay, Brenda.
I feel the same way. Don't be ashamed. Own that. Thank you, Rod. Well, Rod has Maximus, a golden, at home, so I know he's going to like this next story coming up this morning because dogs have long been known as man's best friend. But what about the bond they have with the children they live with? When we come back this morning, we'll show you what Oregon State researchers found out during their recent study on canines and kids. And after turning 75 2 weeks ago, Dolly Parton is re-entering the workforce with a new twist on a classic hit that's ready to roll out on Super Bowl Sunday.